Hold on, let me see where I'm sharing from. Okay.
Joining you from Zambia. It's a pleasure to have this discussion. And I'm currently serving as Forestry and ESG Program Manager. That is Environmental Social Governance at Metalex Commodities. So Metalex is a US-based organization that is operating in Nigeria, Malaysia, and also Zambia. So we can go to the next slide, Adeze.
Okay.
Okay, great. So what do we anticipate in this presentation? Quickly, just the introduction. We'll focus on change and also how it can be mitigated, the role of trees in mitigation, growing money from trees, very interesting aspect there, carbon credits and conservation, what are the carbon credits, impacts on conservation, and then we have the real-time case study, which we are calling the Misitu Conservation Project. After that, just the project overview, its impact, and then we will have time for questions and answers. And please, if time will not allow us to attend to all the questions, feel free, pay attention to the last slide of this presentation. It has my email address, take a screenshot, and we can always be in touch. Okay, so we'll try to just peruse through this presentation. In case of questions, beyond time, we can keep in touch. So let's get started. Climate change refers to a long-term change in the Earth's weather pattern, and especially the increase in global temperature. Now, this change is mainly caused by human activities, you and me. You know, like burning fossil fuels, things like coal, oil, and gas, things like cutting down trees, and also unsustainable agriculture or unsustainable farming, which releases also gases like the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, these gases, they trap heat from the sun, causing the earth to warm up. What happened as a result? So we see rising temperatures, more extreme weather events like floods, the droughts, and the heat waves, rising in sea levels, and also the changes in ecosystem and wildlife. So in simple terms, climate change is the planet getting hotter and facing more unpredictable weather because of what people are doing. So that is how we can define climate change. Now, the key mitigation strategies include things like carbon sequestration, the use of the new renewable energy, and the reforestation programs. Now, the term I've used there, carbon sequestration, is the process of capturing and storing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to reduce its impact on climate change. And there are many ways you can do that. Some of them we'll talk about as we continue with this presentation. The other way is tree planting, because tree planting also plays a vital role in capturing carbon dioxide and enhancing the ecosystem resilience. We can move to the next slide. So some of the causes, there are quite many, just some of them, of causes of climate change, things like the greenhouse gas emissions, burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, gas for energy, also release carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere and causing the global warming. Things like deforestation. This is cutting down of trees. We understand that trees absorb CO2 from the atmosphere. So now when forests are disturbed, they are cleared for farming, for urbanization or logging. and less carbon dioxide is absorbed, increasing the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. For example, in 2023, the world lost about 6.37 million hectares of forests. Now, just to make you see how serious that is, we are saying like in 2023, the world lost approximately 2,360 football pitches of forest every day. That is how serious or bad the situation was in 2023, and this has continued. In Zambia, for example, we are losing about 250,000 to 300,000 hectares of forest every year, according to the recent report. That means almost 1,000 plus football pitches being lost a day. And then things like industrial activities. Factories and power plants burn fossil fuels, releasing the CO2, methane, and other pollutants into the atmosphere. When we talk of agriculture and livestock, there are animals like cattle, the cattle, they produce methane during digestion, and then fertilizer release also nitrogen, nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. That's why you find that people are discouraging you from using chemical fertilizer because of this. Things like cars, trucks, airplanes, and ships also they rely on fossil fuels emitting the CO2 and other pollutants that increase atmospheric temperature. Other things are things like waste management and also urbanization. On top of urbanization, we're talking about expanding cities, replacing forests with the infrastructure. Also, those are some of the causes. We can move to the next slide. Now, climate change mitigation. To mitigate means to reduce or to lessen the severity, the impact or seriousness of something. So in the context of climate change, mitigation refers to actions taken to reduce or prevent the emissions of the greenhouse gases and also try to slow down the global warming. Now, when we talk of renewable energy, so using clean energy sources like solar, wind, and also hydro instead of fossil fuels, it could be one way of mitigating the climate change. We can talk of using energy efficiency, reducing the energy use in industries, even in homes and transportation. You can decide to walk instead of using the car if it is possible, or using the bicycle if it is possible instead of using maybe a car if it is possible. Then you're trying to mitigate the issues of the impacts of climate change. We can talk of reforestation and afforestation. That is the planting of trees to absorb the carbon dioxide and restore the ecosystem. And planting of trees can be done by anyone. You don't need to be an expert to plant a tree. Then you can talk of carbon capture and storage. There are some technologies that you can use to capture the CO2 from the atmosphere and push it into the underground for storage. Maybe for other purposes, for other use, you can do that. There are some technologies. And then sustainable agriculture, that is farming methods like agroforestry that reduce emissions and help store more carbon in the soil. When we talk of agroforestry, we are talking about uh, uh, integrating trees with crops, where you grow trees and also and crops. I think we'll discuss that at the later stage. The role of trees in climate mitigation, that is the next slide. The role of trees in mitigation. Quite a number, but just to mention a few: carbon sequestration and storage. So trees absorb carbon from the atmosphere through a very common process called photosynthesis, and they store it in their biomass, in trunks, branches, leaves, or roots. And this reduces the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The other one is preventing soil erosion and desertification. Climate change also leads to increased drought and extreme weather events, accelerating soil degradation and desertification. But when we talk of trees, they help stabilize the soil. They prevent the land degradation and also maintain moisture levels, ensuring the ecosystems remain productive. The other aspect is supporting biodiversity and ecosystem balance. So health forest and trees cover, they support biodiversity. And when we talk of biodiversity, we're talking about, different living organisms. It could be trees, it could be wild animals, and also ensuring that ecosystems remain resilient in the face of climate change. The other aspect we can discuss is improving the air and water quality. So trees act as natural air filters. They reduce atmospheric pollutants and contribute to climate change, such as removing things like the carbon monoxide, the sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter. I usually like giving an example of China in Beijing. Some 20, 30 years ago, when you visit the capital city of China, it was polluted because there were no trees, because of industries. There was smoke everywhere. But this time around, Beijing is the cleanest city, is considered among the cleanest cities in the world because they have now ventured into urban forestry, planting trees in cities along the roads. It is now very clean. That's why we are saying trees act as natural air filter. We can move to the next slide. Very interesting aspect there. And this is very practical. Growing money from trees. The question is how? Is it through witchcraft or magic? Or is it through 419, like Sophia used to say it? I'm giving an example of the primary focus there that says nursery business. And I'm giving this an example because I'm doing it. The picture you are seeing there, that is my nursery. Growing money from trees is not by magic. Running a tree nursery is highly profitable and sustainable business. It involves raising seedlings for either reforestation, it could be for agroforestry, landscaping, and commercial plantations. Selling indigenous, exotic, and fruit tree seedlings to individuals, it could be to organizations and carbon projects. You target different markets, like government programs. For example, during the International Day of Forest, World International Day of Forest, people want to plant trees to commemorate that day. So, you'd sell your trees if you are running the tree nursery business. You can sell to NGOs, private plantations, or you can also sell to farmers and climate projects like the Misitu Conservation Project, which I'll talk about soon. If you want, you can actually diversify the nursery. You venture into also the bamboo, which is a fast-growing species. You can start selling the medicinal plants. I'm not saying you are going to become a witch doctor, no, but some trees, they come with health benefits. These are medicinal plants, and also ornamental trees that beautify the environment, like the Christmas trees, the umbrella trees, the green acacia, such kind of trees. We can also make money through the carbon credits and climate financing. I'll talk about that again. And then the other way is timber and agroforestry products, growing high value timber species. Now, this is like a long-term investment. You can plant or establish a plantation of timber trees like the teak, the mahogany, the pine, the eucalyptus. Then in the next 15, 20 years, you harvest and sell for furniture and construction. Then things like agroforestry, integrating cash crops like coffee, cocoa, and fruit trees with sustainable trees. This is another way of putting money into your pocket, growing money from trees, things like beekeeping, non-timber forest products. Now, trees support honey production by providing nectar and sources, right? Then the other one is harvesting wild fruits, which you can sell, the nuts, which you can sell, resins and medicinal plants, which also create extra income. The other aspect is ecotourism and conservation enterprises, the sustainable charcoal and biomass energy. So producing eco-friendly charcoal, which is commonly, I think, known as biochar, and briquettes from fast-growing species like the one we mentioned, the bamboo. Specifically, there's what we call the solid bamboo. And also we can talk about the tree-based agriculture or silvopasture and early cropping, where you integrate trees with livestock, grazing, and also crop production. Species like the Fidebia albida, that is the scientific name or botanical name, Fidebia albida, commonly known as the acacia, it's in the acacia family. Also, they enrich soil or make the soil more fertile, reducing the use of, the fertilizer, like chemical fertilizer. So instead of applying chemical fertilizer, you can actually use some trees to provide, to make your soil more fertile, because these are nitrogen fixing species. So you can actually fight climate change while growing money from trees. This is the most interesting aspect. In your process of fighting climate change, you can also make money. That is what we meant by saying growing money from trees. Very interesting and as simple as that. We can move on to carbon credits and conservation. Yes, another interesting aspect. So we are talking about market-based approach to reducing emissions. Now, companies pay for carbon credits to offset their pollutions, supporting tree growing projects that absorb the carbon dioxide. This is more like an incentive. People and businesses, they actually earn money by planting trees and protecting forests, helping the planet while making profit. Very interesting aspect. And then carbon credits also, they actually help countries and companies meet climate goals, like reducing the global warming and protecting nature. So the bottom line here is trees help fight climate change, and the people can actually make money by growing and protecting the trees. We can move to the next slide. So what are carbon credits? What are they? We've talked about them, but what are they? So carbon credits are tradable permits that represent the reduction or the removal of 1 ton of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So they are part of the global effort to fight climate change by encouraging the businesses and governments to reduce the carbon footprints. But you might ask a question, how does it work? How are carbon credits created? So carbon credits are generated through activities that help lower the carbon dioxide levels, such as afforestation and deforestation. We are talking about basically planting trees. And we have discussed that trees reduce carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So when you are planting, you can actually generate the carbon credits. Things like renewable energy projects, using things like solar, wind, or hydropower instead of fossil fuels. And then conservation efforts, protecting forests, wetlands, or other natural resources that store the carbon. But how do carbon credits work? How do they work? This is what happens. Companies and governments that produce emissions can actually buy carbon credits to offset their pollution. What does this mean? So this means that for every ton of carbon they emit, they purchase a credit that proves an equivalent amount has been removed or reduced somewhere else. You and me agree that in your operations, whatever business you do, even as an individual, we also emit carbon into the atmosphere. But if you want to claim as a company or as an individual that we are carbon neutral, you calculate the amount of carbon you emit or the amount of pollution you cause and pay for them. Now, why are carbon credits important? Number one, they help businesses take responsibility for their emissions and then support environmental projects that absorb or prevent the carbon dioxide and encourage the transmission to a low carbon economy. In short, fighting of climate change. So if you emit, let's say, 1 ton of carbon to produce a bottle of water, you can buy 1 ton of carbon or 1 ton of credit or 1 credit, because we are saying 1 credit is equivalent to 1 ton of carbon. So that is how it works. We can move to impact of carbon credits on conservation. So what is the impact? So carbon credits play a crucial role in conservation by providing both environmental and economic benefits. They create financial incentives for protecting forests, managing land sustainably, and supporting local communities. Encouraging sustainable land management is one of the aspects, because carbon credits, project actually, they promote practices that protect natural resources while allowing communities to benefit. And this includes projects that we've talked about, things like reforestation, agroforestry, and soil restoration, which help maintain the healthy environment. And then provides financial benefit to local communities. Because what we are saying here is many carbon credit projects directly benefit the local communities by creating jobs in tree planting, the forest monitoring, and I'm saying this from experience because this is what we are working on under the Misitu conservation projects that I'll talk about soon. They also help protect the forest and biodiversity, because forests act as natural carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Others, they call forests as lungs of the earth. Yeah, because they help absorb these greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. And carbon credits provide financial motivation to protecting forests from deforestation, preserving habitats of the endangered species. And then they support climate resilience efforts. So health forests and well managed lands reduce the impact of climate change by stabilizing weather patterns, the preventing of soil erosion, and also protecting the water sources. Let's go to the next slide. Yes, Misitu Conservation Project. Misitu is a Swahili name. Misitu is a Swahili name that means forests. The project that we are working on is called Misitu. And the Misitu Conservation Project is a large-scale reforestation and sustainable land management initiative, and it is covering about 62,008 hectares of land. Where is it located? Northwestern province of Zambia, Ikerenge district. And the project is designed to restore degraded forests, enhance carbon sequestration, and promote biodiversity conservation while ensuring long-term social economic benefits for local communities. If you want to know more about this project, you can just go to Google and type this name, Misitu Conservation Project. Then it will come. You find more information about this project. Now, through activities such as sustainable forestry, activities such as beekeeping, clean energy solutions, the project actively engage local stakeholders in conservation efforts, promoting a balance between environmental restoration and community development. What are some of the impacts of this project? So the project is expected to remove about 1.3 million tons of CO2 or of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere over the next 10 years period, significantly contributing to global climate change mitigation efforts. And then the issue of job creation. We can actually move on to the next slide. The issue of job creation. The initiative provides also employment opportunities for the local people. And when I say the local people, these are the people who are residing near or within the project area, supporting livelihoods through sustainable economic activities such as the beekeeping that we've talked about, the agroforestry and carbon credit generation. And then biodiversity conservation. So by restoring forests, the project creates healthy ecosystem protecting endangered species and promoting biodiversity. The other aspect is the long-term sustainability. The project integrates community involvement, climate resilience strategies, and responsible land management to ensure lasting environmental and socio-economic benefits. For example, one of the most common economic activity in the project area is farming of pineapples. But people there are not doing it sustainably. And we are saying, okay, fine, we continue with this economic activity, but we just do it sustainably. So we don't cause a negative impact on the environment. So the Misitu Conservation Project is a model for nature-based solutions and demonstrating how conservation can drive both climate action and community empowerment. Okay, let's move to the next slide. We can move to the next slide before question and answer. Okay, thank you. What are some of the key takeaways in this presentation? What I would like you to go away with, after this presentation? Urgent action is needed. Climate change is accelerating, that we know, and we must take immediate steps to mitigate its impact. Again, trees are one of the most effective tools in fighting climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide and restoring ecosystems. Then what we have discussed again is the role of trees in climate mitigation. Trees act as natural carbon sinks, reducing atmospheric CO2 levels. And large-scale tree planting and forest conservation are crucial strategies for reversing environmental degradation. Again, carbon credits as a financial solution. Conservation efforts can be financially sustainable through carbon credits, which reward projects like the Misitu Conservation Project, which we are working on currently, for reducing carbon emissions. And this provides an economic incentive for individuals, for companies, communities, and governments to invest in reforestation. And lastly, the Misitu project as a model. So Misitu Conservation Project showcases how tree planting, sustainable land management, and community engagement can remove over 1 million tons of CO2 over 10 years, contributing to the global climate action. So we are saying in the next 10 years, because the project is like for 10 years. However, per year, we are removing about 130,000 tons of carbon dioxide per year just by conserving 62,008 hectares of forests. Now, I have a practical question. How many trees can we plant per year as the world? Maybe we can type there. This is a practical question. I think if we can participate, how many trees can we plant per year in the world? So what we can do maybe, what is our population? I can see the hand from Daniel. You can give it a try.
Good evening. So,
Yes, good
okay, the
evening.
question was, how many trees can we plant in the world? I think
Yes.
per year,
Yes.
okay, we should be able to plant up to, if we're going to plant for 100 maybe days in the year, we should be able to plant up to 100 million trees for every person, or 100 billion trees for every person that will, oh, no, sorry.
Yes, Daniel can go ahead.
Yeah, then that will be 14 billion trees, and as the number increases. So I guess that's my answer to the question.
Yes, that's an interesting thinking. Thank you so much. So let's do this. What is population as of 2025? The estimated population as of 2025. Maybe for the sake of time, we can say around 8.1 billion people, right? Can anyone confirm?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So somewhere 8.1 billion. Thank you, Kapembe. Now, if we are 8 million, because that includes babies, right? So now let's do this. Babies that are maybe 0 to 5 years of age, about say maybe 600 million. Those are babies. And then let us remove the babies because they can't plant a tree. A baby cannot plant a tree below 4 years. But 5 years and above, they can plant a very small tree. Now, let us, God forbid, let's remove those who will die. God forbid. So let's say about, when we look at the death rates, about maybe 60 million. And that leaves approximately 7 billion people who could plant trees. 7 billion people who could plant trees. The entire world. So if every person planted just 1 tree per year, how many trees can we be planting? If every person plants a tree, just 1 tree per year, how many trees can we be planting? We are 7 billion, and each person just planted 1 tree every year. How many trees? Yes, correct. I've seen the comment, 7 billion trees. And that's not a small number. We're not saying plant 100 trees, no. Saying plant 60 trees, no. Just 1 every after how many? 360 days. Just plant 1 tree. And climate ambassadors, this is the message we want you to take out there. You have kind of gatherings. Encourage people to plant a tree. Just 1 tree in a year will be planting 7 billion trees every year. Imagine the impact if each person just planted 1, 2, 3. So large-scale tree planting could massively reduce the carbon dioxide emission, restore the ecosystem, and combat the climate change. And it is time to act. Every tree counts. Let's go to the last slide. Go to the last slide. Okay, call to action. Call to action. So support sustainable projects. Investing or supporting projects that promote sustainability, such as the Misitu conservation projects that I've talked about, help restore ecosystems, absorb the carbon dioxide, and provide economic opportunities for communities. Whether through carbon credits, it can be through the donations or direct participation. Supporting these initiatives create long-term environmental and social benefits. Reduce your carbon footprints. Even at a personal level, you can do this. Every action matters. You can cut your carbon emissions by using clean energy sources like solar, wind, if you can, reduce waste and recycling, opting for sustainable transportation, walking, biking, or e-mobility or electronic mobility, and also conserving water and energy at home. We can contribute even at a personal level. Advocate for climate friendly policies. Push for government and corporate policies that prioritize sustainability. Are you a representative of an organization under corporate social responsibility? Can you propose tree planting projects? This includes supporting deforestation and afforestation programs, encourage investment in renewable energy, holding industries accountable for their environmental impacts. So get involved, young ambassadors, in conservation initiatives. Taking action locally can create a global impact you might not just notice there and then. Join or volunteer for conservation projects. Plant a tree or support carbon offset programs that help protecting forests and also biodiversity. Engaging in community efforts, ensuring long-term environmental resiliency. If you are busy, you can't plant a tree because that is the easiest way of contributing to this fight. Just plant a tree. If you are busy, if you don't have space where to plant, try to sponsor a tree planting. How can you sponsor a tree planting? We have organizations like Chips Green Innovations, the one that you saw in my presentation. They can plant a tree for you. You can ask, okay, I want to plant 1 tree or 5 trees or whatever number, but I don't have space where to plant. I don't have time. How can we do it? They plant a tree for you, share the GP location with you, so that you'll be able to monitor using a certain application the growth or the status of the tree. Get feedback, get photos, updates on how your trees are doing. That is another way. So every step counts. You can start today and be part of this solution. Thank you so much for paying attention and also for participating. And like I said, we might not have enough time to ask questions now, but what we are seeing on the screen there, that is the last slide. Those are my contact details. That is my email address. That is my WhatsApp phone number. Take a screenshot, take a picture, whatever can work for you, and reach out to me anytime. This is what we call networking. In case you had a question and I maybe you want to ask at a later stage or whatever, even in the future, we are now a team. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much. But before we close, maybe we can get 3 questions and then others, please feel free to make a follow-up after. Thank you so much. Kapembe has a question, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chiposa, for this wonderful presentation. Very insightful. I just wanted to hear your views on how best as growing economies we can strike a balance between the clean energy aspect and industrialization, because it's quite intense and clean sources of energy can be a challenge at times and even slow to develop. So how best can that balance be struck between trying to develop at a fast pace and also trying to balance on environmental sustainability?
That is a very interesting question, and I like it. I really like it. And let me give this practical answer. I'm working for Metalex, and Metalex is a mining company. And you know, mining companies, they come with a lot of negative impact on the environment. And when you look at economies like Zambia, we depend on copper production. We can't say stop copper production, that the economy is just going to collapse. Now, instead of saying we stop copper production, we are saying continue producing copper, but sustainably. But the question is how, and that is your question. So what Metalax is doing, for example, using the carbon calculator, we have calculated like, on average, Metalex is emitting, say, 2,000 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere in their production. So this is the amount of carbon that we are releasing into the atmosphere every year as we are producing our copper. Now, what are you going to do so that you remove that pollution? And that's where where Metex has ventured into the carbon trading projects, where we are absorbing about 130,000 tons of CO2 in the atmosphere every year. So we are releasing 2,000 every year, but we are actually absorbing 130,000. So that means we have a lot of excess, no extra. Now, what do? We keep 30,000 for Metalex, and then the 100,000 is for sale. And that's where the carbon credit comes in. So in the process of fighting climate change, we are also making money by selling the extra offsets, which we are selling in the form of the carbon credits. And that's why when you check on our LinkedIn profile, we are saying we are carbon neutral, producing critical metals, but not causing negative impacts in the environment. So that is one way. Now, the other question is, how are we removing that carbon from the atmosphere? How? We are conserving the forest, the 62,008 hectares of forest. And in that process, that's where I'm able to remove. Other ways is, identify areas where you can plant trees and then just be accountable for the pollution being caused. And each and every organization now, they have introduced what they are calling, I think almost every organization has what they call ESGs, environmental social governance. And that's where you can actually be venturing this kind of activities. Thank you so much for that question. I saw another hand from
Joylene.
Yes, please. Joylene.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. So I wanted to ask how you calculate the amount of carbon that you are producing and the amount of carbon that you are capturing.
Very good. Actually, you can calculate even as an individual how much you are emitting into the atmosphere. But what we do is the easiest way, you go online and let's say go to Google and type carbon calculator. Just type carbon calculator. You see a lot of options. Then you can choose one of them, the carbon calculator. So how it works, they'll ask you how often you use, for example, public transport or personal vehicle, the amount of fuel you use per day, per week, something like that. And then from there, it will calculate for you. They will just ask you questions. maybe are you using solar energy, or are you using hydro or co-energy, whatever? Simple questions. Then you just answer, and at the end they will calculate for, even for organizations, they can do the same. But there are different calculators. There are those that can calculate just for individuals, and then those that can calculate for organizations. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So I wanted to ask, how accurate is it, like the calculator, how accurate is it in producing these numbers? Taking, for instance, in Zimbabwe, I understand that using public transport will reduce the carbon emissions that can go into the atmosphere by using public transport, right? But like in the case of Zimbabwe, most of the buses are like old buses. They are the ones that are responsible for the major pollution. So how do you take that into consideration?
Oh, okay. So now, as at a personal level, if you want to contribute towards the solution for the country, one of the ways is raising awareness, and try to propose shifting to e-mobility, electronic vehicles, and obviously that is like a long process, and a lot of I don't know, bureaucracy or politics involved, but you can be proposing such kind of initiatives, maybe to lawmakers, policy enforcers, if they can invent into the electronic or electric motor vehicles. That is one of them. But at a personal level, you can try to implement things like, those things that we discussed in the presentation, and I'm happy to actually share with you at the end, or we can actually even get it from Adese at the end of this presentation, this meeting here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, maybe one more, please.
I don't have any more questions. I think Uma was raising his hand before.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I've seen there's a question about can we get the slides? Yes, you can. And you can reach out to Adese. She will share. Thank you so much. Thank you guys once again. Thank you, Adese.
Yeah, thank you so much, Moses, for this opportunity. Wow, that is an awesome thing you are doing with the conservation project. I mean, the forestation project having 2,000 hectares of land just to preserve the planet. That's awesome. I like you are a regime and you are doing a great job. Thank you so much, and continue doing what is good, and we are actually learning from you. And this is gonna be a challenge for every one of us to encourage us to plant a tree, support trees. If you can't plant one, you can support. So let's keep this initiative going. And I'm so happy to have you, Moses. When I started it up was due to I read your profile on LinkedIn. I was like, wow, this is a red gym, and I'm super happy if you could.
I'm
Yeah,
humbled to hear that, Adese. Thank you.
if you could just come and speak to the ambassadors there, encourage them to plant trees. That would be so awesome, and we would actually learn a whole lot. And the slide is awesome. We're sharing out the slide after the lecture, so you could read up. Have any question, like he said, you can chat him. Send him a message on email. Follow his profile on LinkedIn. I think he's a person, right person you could start your journey with. Thank you so much, Moses.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you guys.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've learned a whole lot today. So let's keep the initiative going and prepare to plant trees. We have Simon Eze is joining us today. Simon. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Adese.
How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks a lot. We sincerely appreciate the program.
Yeah, so Simon is the founder of Refi Lagos, and I'm the co-founder. So affiliate is one of the projects in Refi Lagos. So we have Simon. Simon is doing a project, OCC, which is three projects. So Simon, I don't know if you could unmute yourself and talk to us for probably 5 minutes, so we could share the attendance and round up these class.
Yeah, hi, ambassadors. First of all, I have to say this is a very great opportunity to connect, to get to speak with a whole lot of people regarding climate. Climate is here. We just have to fight it. Uh, as I said earlier, this I sincerely appreciate what you are doing in getting people together. Together, I think we can fight this problem called climate change. Through tree planting, through renewable energy, we just have to get the word out there. And the best way to go about it is climate education, where we learn and we also educate people in our communities, getting them to do what we have learned, and particularly the tree planting, which is very, very easy. It's a nature-based solution. It's simple to do. So let's get the word out there and let's continue doing our best to promote environmental sustainability. I appreciate every one of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Simon. So we just shared the attendance link. So do where to sign up, find the attendance form, and get ready for our next season on Monday. We'll be having Sabrina. Sabrina will be joining us on Monday to talk about okay, Sabrina will be joining us on Monday. That should be 7th of April. Talk about refi. Like I said, how refi can improve global condition to address the explosion of wildlife. So, and we'll also be looking at some real world refi projects. So, join us on Monday, that is 7th of August, for another insightful season, guys. We don't want to miss out these interesting lectures and slides because I don't think you can get it elsewhere, right? So we are giving out this information free of charge. So I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be here on Monday. But if there's any other question, please feel free to reach out to me on WhatsApp, and I'll be very happy to attend the question. So having signed up the attendance link, I think that